Okay. So I imagine that I'm live now. Uh, yeah, it looks like I'm live. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for some people to hop in. Of course, I'm gonna share this stream with the group and see if some of y'all hop in. But great to have you guys on here. I think I missed last week. I was out of town. But here we are. Now on. Q and A call. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So we're here. Yeah. So again, I'm gonna wait a few minutes here. Wait for people to pop on. Just finished an exercise not too long ago, so I'm still sort of recalibrating myself and getting into that mindset and that groove to be able to give you guys a top-notch call. So do that. So while I'm waiting for a few people to hop in, and maybe no one does today, totally fine. I'm going to write down the questions that I intend on answering today. Okay. And it's sort of crazy. It's the end of the month. Wow. Sorry, it's the end of the year. It sort of came up weird, but so the three questions I'll be answering today. How do you compete with other similar companies? Did you have trouble hiring agents? And if I were to start over, what would I do differently? Three great questions. I'm very excited to answer these. Hey, good evening. Good to see you in here. Our newest tribe member. Hope everything's going well for you so far. Seems like you're very excited. B, I want, actually, I'm not sure it applies to you, but I'm going to be making some changes pretty soon to the funnel and possibly to where I host classes. But, haven't quite made all of those decisions yet. But good to have you in here. Well, whoever else just hopped in, feel free to say hi. Again, guys, I'll be answering, how do you compete with other similar companies? Did you have trouble hiring agents? And if you were to start over with a new virtual receptionist company, what would you do differently? So I'll be on right now. It's 6:35 my time. I'll be on till probably a little bit after 6. Hey, Mark, good to see you in here, man. As always, looking forward to seeing you in the tribe soon. Again, yeah, the last month of the year. And, I wasn't sure if we'd make it through 2020. Suddenly, we're at the very end of the year after that. Pretty soon, 2020 might feel like a distant memory. I feel like that's impossible. But, one day we're going to wake up and 2020 will be a year that we just think about in history books, sort of like how our grandparents think about Vietnam or something. I don't know. So, the big thing as it comes to the end of a year is that it's always important to, especially from like an accomplishment or goal standpoint, to either finish off strong with your current goals, the current things you're working on, but also to start to plan out and visualize and strategize on what you're going to do next year. What are going to be your accomplishments next year? I know going into December for myself, I just so happened, I wasn't even planning. I was just thinking about like, man, it's December. I need to start planning out my next year. at the very top of my mind, I had a few things pop up immediately that were things that I definitely want to accomplish in 2022. Um, you know, I do think that no matter, I don't think that, I think that you want to be able to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the journey, and take in your present life as opposed to always thinking about the future. But one of the best ways to make your future better is to always be striving towards something. So even if you achieve some of the initial success that you had, it's always good to continue to strive for something. I think having purpose is very important for humans. And so, yeah, I mean, it's always good in the turn of a year as we, get to the end of this year to start thinking about what we're going to do. So, again, this is the live Q&A call, December 1st of 2021. And the main purpose of this call is to answer whatever questions that you guys have live, but also to answer the question that existed going into the call. So, how do you compete with other similar companies? Did you have trouble hiring an agent? And if you were to start over, what would you do differently? I saw that a few of you took advantage of the Black Friday sale that I did. I wasn't sure I was going to do one, but everyone else that I know of was doing one, so I decided to hop on that train. Oh, that's a good question. I'll answer that in just a second. I sort of lost track of what I was saying. I don't know what I was saying. But basically, so the purpose of this call is to answer questions that are coming in, like the one that B just asked, as well as making sure the questions that came in before are answered as well. So I've got about, 30, 35 more minutes. Totally fine. I usually don't lose track that bad. But okay, so let me first answer the first question. How do you compete with other similar companies? And then I will answer your question B. Okay, so how do you compete with other similar companies in the virtual receptionist space? So the answer to that question, I'll answer that in two pieces. The first is that there's already 1,300 companies that I know of that are registered, in the answering services space in the U.S. alone. Okay, and the market is large; it's $3 billion and counting. And with the market being that size, the average size of each of the 1,300 companies is $2 million. And the beautiful thing about this industry, unlike some other industries, is that it's not a emperor and his peasant. No, I'm going to use that. I'm going to write that down. It's not an emperor and his peasant market. Emperor peasant market. I like that. Emperor peasant market. What I consider to be an emperor peasant market is something like social media, right? Or even search engines, right? Google is the king of search. If you think about other options out there, there's Bing. There's Bing, there's whatever Mozilla Firefox uses, I guess, which I think is Google. And I legitimately can't really, DuckDuckGo, which is a good one. But basically, there's one engine that takes the lion's share of revenue and popularity and users and subscribers and traction and everything, right? They have the market. And then, there might be 100 other, there's probably 1,000 other actual search engine companies out there. And they're all fighting for scrap. They're fighting for tiny pieces of the market. So it's sort of like the emperor of Google and the peasant. Bing is sort of like the assistant to the emperor in this case. Facebook, same thing. There's plenty of different social media outlets, but they all have a king within their niche, right? So think of a professional social media network outside of LinkedIn, right? Think of a Facebook that isn't Facebook. Think of a TikTok that isn't TikTok. I guess it was sort of a Vine in whoever talked about buying anymore, right? So again, circling back in the answering services space, the competition is spread out very well. No one cares when they go to sign up for an answering service whether or not you're the Facebook of it or not. People inherently understand that there are equally as good services as the one that they see when they first, hear about the industry. The largest one that I can think of in the virtual receptionist space is Ruby Receptionist. Now, I can tell you that Ruby Receptionist, they're pretty large, but they're nowhere near being a majority or even a large minority of the market. I don't believe they're more than 3% of the market, if that. And so with that, there's plenty of room. You're not going to get saturated. I'm really extending this answer, aren't I? So to shorten this up, one of the things that makes it hard to compete is whether the market is saturated. And because the market is not saturated, it's much easier to get in there and claim market share for yourself and be able to get clients and survive and thrive, right? Now, considering that, knowing that this market itself isn't as hard as many other markets, right? How do you compete? Well, you're competing by getting in there and doing your thing and working hard and continue to try to build traction. But how do you stand out? How do you make yourself unique? That's going to come down to two things. One, how you brand yourself. And two, if you decide to niche within the niche, so instead of just being a general virtual receptionist company, maybe select a niche. So in my case, when I started off with cleaning companies. We were a company that was, for cleaning businesses, and it was, started and created by people that currently at the time owned a cleaning company. And so our prospect, that we were reaching out to specifically or directly were cleaning companies, and it was easy to talk to them and present ourselves in a way that was intriguing to them because we were them. We were also cleaning business owners, right? So just in that fact, the fact that we were also cleaning company business owners, there was no more competing we had to do. No one could compete with that. Even though we were new, we were automatically a better service offering, at least in theory, than anyone else in the market because we're speaking directly to them. We understand them better than any of our competitors ever could. Okay? So that's how to compete. I would pick a niche, try to stick with what you know if you're pretty solid and have a lot of experience in a certain industry. And then also circling back, because this market isn't too saturated, don't be too worried about whether or not you have the ability to compete. As long as you get in there and do work consistently, create that momentum like I was posting about on the Facebook group earlier, have that momentum and you'll be able to survive and thrive. Okay, B, again, you asked a great question. And B, again, welcome to the tribe. Do you have a model or a template for training phone reps? So right now, there is not a template for training phone reps. I think that I should probably add some training materials, but what I've learned, because we trained hundreds of reps, what I learned was that each agent is so different. There wasn't really anything that was particularly good or that helpful for us. I could throw in a couple templates, I guess, as a starting point, but it's something, and I'm gonna do that. I'll do that in 2022. I'm gonna put that on the list right now. I'm gonna add that. So thank you for that. Add agent training templates. Now the reason I haven't done it before, and Mark, I'll get to your question after I finish it. The reason I haven't done it before again is because when we thought we would use it, we didn't. We tried to create the methodology and stuff, and it didn't help us. That might not be the case for others. There might be some that need them. And, the way that my path went and my journey went might be different for others. But I'll give you a quick crash course on how to train an agent right now. Essentially, what you do day one is get them comfortable with the software. Okay. The second thing you do is you get them comfortable with different phone calling scenarios. And the best way to do that is to do role play calls. If you don't have any clients yet, just do it as a call between yourself, the owner, and the agent. And so, if you're envisioning, if you're taking calls for different types of companies, say you're going to, focus on accounting, what I would do is basically, try to scope out what a call for an accounting firm would look like. What are the different categories of callers that would call an accounting firm, such as I need an accountant, I need my taxes, I screwed up on my taxes, those types of things. And, try to think out all sort of things based off of the stuff that's in the course that different accounting clients or really clients in general would ask for, such as, do you want them to take a message, or do you want them to book an appointment, or do you want them, to transfer the call? And so you'll role play each one of those individual scenarios multiple times, and essentially you just do it until the agent is familiar with each of those scenarios. You want to set up an environment that they will be utilizing when they're actually live taking the call for the client, such as, having the script put together, having, a set of instructions that are similar to the one you would set up for a client once they sign up. And you'll see a sample of those in the course. And again, you just have the agent go through the workflow that they will eventually go through when they're actually taking calls. Okay. And this is for the very first agent before you get clients. Once they're comfortable in those scenarios and they actually take a call, literally after each call, if you have the ability, or as often as you can, listen to the recording of the call, go over it with the agent, and talk about what could have been done differently. Okay. Usually it's pretty easy to tell. The main things that are going to stick out are whether or not someone covered all the bases. Did they, ask for the information they need to ask for? Did they confirm the information they received, such as, confirming the spelling, sometimes phonetically spelling things out. If it's something easy like Bob, fine. If it's something like, Galapagos, make sure you spell that out, and those types of things, making sure the phone number is correct. So if they covered all the bases, said my connection is unstable, so I'm going to wait this out a little bit. So said my connection's unstable. I want you guys to chat me and let me know if it's working properly. If it is, I'm going to continue to talk. If it's not, then I'm still going to continue to talk. The last time this happened, it was because I accidentally had two of the live sessions going at the same time. But I know that it's not happening. Okay, Mark, I got your message, so it should be okay. Okay, so once an agent is familiar with all the different scenarios they would encounter, and they're familiar with the system they're going to be utilizing while they are answering the phone, then straight up they're ready to take calls. That's all it takes. Some agents we literally had taken calls pretty much, hey, Bill, good to see you, man. Some agents we literally had taken calls at the end of their first day, like halfway through their first day. Some agents, it takes a few weeks for them to be comfortable, but you want to be sort of unique to whatever that agent's ramp up time is. What I can say is that it never takes an agent 2 months to ramp up. If that's happening, they're not the right fit, and you want to switch them out for somebody else, unfortunately. So that's the crash course. Getting them comfortable with the scenario by role playing, getting them comfortable with the system they're going to be using. Now, for the first agent, you got to do the role plays yourself. For second agent, you might want to have them listen to calls that have already existed. Maybe if you have some calls that you thought were really good in the past, just download them onto the computer or something, have them uploaded either in Google Drive or wherever you want to store those calls, and go over those recorded calls with the incoming agent before you even have to do any role play scenarios with them, and ask them to point out things that they thought went well, or if there's any mistakes, anything they would personally do differently. So you have an environment where they go through actual call examples, then you take them through the scenarios of the role play, always try to match them to the types of clients that you have. And then eventually, when they say they're comfortable, have them take one call at a time. And as they're making less mistakes, have them take more and more calls in a row. That's how we train agents. That's how we always did it. And that's how we did it for literally hundreds of different agents. So I hope that helps. Okay, so Mark asked, did you ask to talk to the owner or manager? So I'm assuming you're referencing when I was saying, when we were reaching out to people in our niche because we chose a specific niche of cleaning company. If we're doing a cold call, it's pretty simple. Like it's been a really long time, but essentially, when someone picks up, they'll say, "Bob Plumbing, hi, this Bob." I guess that would be, pretty convenient. If it's like 24-hour plumbing and you don't know the owner's name for some reason, if you don't know the decision maker's name, I would say something like, 24-hour plumbing, how can I help you today? Hey, my name's Donald. I actually, I'm completely off. But essentially, introduce yourself. Hey, this is Donald with Vicky Virtual Receptionist. Essentially, we help small businesses answer the phones better. How are you currently getting your calls handled right now? That's a terrible opening, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm introducing myself. Sometimes if I can get the wording right, which takes a little bit of time, maybe 20 calls or something. Once you get the wording right, the first thing you want to ask them is how they're getting their calls handled. I don't really ask for the owner or manager. I think when you ask for the owner or manager, you sort of really like saying not only is this a sales call, you're like sort of potentially going to ask for the sale right now. And I do think it's okay. Like some of our students actually will start off their pitch by saying, I'm just letting you know this is a sales call. That's fine. But when you ask, hey, am I speaking to the owner or manager? You give that prospect opportunity to even lie really, and say, well, yes, I am, but I'm not interested before you even pitch, or saying, no, I'm not, and maybe they even are, but they don't feel like dealing with it, right? So I try to ask them a question as soon as I can. Once they sort of know who I am, right? My name's Donald, Vicky Virtual Receptionist. We help people answer the phone better. And I ask a question that they have to answer if they're nice to you at all. But if they're not nice at all, and it's not going to be a chance, then they're not even going to answer that question, and it's pointless, and don't even try to worry about closing those types of prospects because it was never going to happen. But when you ask a question such as, hey, how are you currently handling the calls? Are you the one picking them up usually, or how does that work? So you ask the question that they can't answer yes or no, and they have to answer in a way that they think about. And based off of that answer, you segue into what's next, right? So, that's how I do it. I don't have to talk to an owner or manager. Okay. B, how do you find salespeople to help get new accounts when the time comes? Are there specific avenues, agencies, or characteristics? I wouldn't even know what to advertise for. Well, B, our staffing agency, we also hire out sales reps, so I can help you with that. Um, but it's not, the sales reps are down a dozen, right? Um, Certain characteristics I would look for are people that have somewhat relevant experience. Um, they don't have to be like specific to freaking answering service companies or virtual receptionist companies, let alone. Uh, but something to where they've sold, business to business before. Things that do not have a long sales cycle, short-term sales cycle. Um, and then people that when you talk to them, you interact with them, they do a pretty good job convincing you that there's someone that could be working for you. Because chances are, if they do a great job sort of presenting themselves to you, and they're like really good at it, they're just naturally sort of smooth or whatever, and they have some decent credentials to back it up. If they're able to present themselves well to you, they're going to present themselves well to prospect at their prospecting on behalf of your company. So those are like the very top line characteristics. Also making sure that the expectations salary wise. Hey Michelle, good to see you on here. Expectations salary wise are in line with what you're looking to pay. That's obviously important. If it's too low, then they don't value themselves enough. And frankly, you don't want someone that devalue themselves because maybe they're desperate, meaning they're probably not all that great of a sales rep. Top sales reps or really good sales reps are never completely broke. They're either going to have money or they're going to be too not motivated to like feel like doing anything. Um, and that's not a 100% thing, but it's usually the case, right? And it's one of those things where you can filter out pretty easily and reliably by looking for people that present themselves well and value themselves. If they value themselves, they have confidence. That confidence is necessary when they are presenting themselves on behalf of your company and trying to win clients. So now, if you aren't using my agency, I seriously think you would just post a job listing specifically what you're looking for anywhere. I used to take sales rep jobs all the time. I'm always competing with a bunch of people. You're always going to get a bunch of sales reps that you're paying decently, especially if there's some type of salary plus commission component. The quality of sales reps you get, it's going to be based off of how much you're paying. And then, of course, if you look outside of the U.S., I can't remember which market you are looking. I think you're in, yeah, I'm going to guess you're in the U.S. Assuming you're in the U.S., it is possible to hire outside of the country and pay what is a really good salary to those people, retaining good sales reps without paying the sales rep rate in the U.S. Okay, so I hope that sort of answers that question. Okay, but Bill, I'm doing good, man. Good. Thank you for being here and asking, and I hope that answers your question, B. And Mark, I hope I sufficiently answered your question earlier. Okay, so there were two other questions that I had been prepared to answer before the call started. I answered how did you compete with other similar companies. If you missed that earlier, then you can always watch the replay of this. The second was, did you have trouble hiring agents? The very simple, California, awesome. The very simple answer to that question, did I have trouble hiring agents? No. Hiring agents, well, at least having a candidate pool to select from was literally the most surprisingly easy aspect of this business. Again, during my tenure of starting a company and selling it after was it almost 5 years? January 1st, 2015. Yeah, okay, so almost 5 years. So during my 4.5 years running the company, I never had to post an official job ad, and I got over 60,000 applicants. So, we had plenty of applicants, and I talk about it in the course B. Um, oh, I talk about it in the course. I talk about it in another call. Essentially, what happened was uh, we had a job listing page on our own website on vickyvirtual.com. And then some work from home blog picked it up. I actually talked about this 2 weeks ago, and other companies started scraping. Okay. Mark asked, did you charge for the call forwarding minutes? I'm going to assume that you mean after we forward the call. And wait a minute. If whenever we take a client, every single time, and they have a phone number, we ask them to forward their call to our call center, and then we'll take those calls. Now, when we transfer a call to somewhere else, after the transfer, we don't charge anything. So, if it took us 2 minutes to have a conversation with the caller, then transfer the call ends on our end, and then, that caller will have a conversation with the, employee or client or whatever. We don't charge for that. We don't desire to charge for that. Now, in terms of forwarding a call into the system, because that always happens, I don't really know how to answer it. Basically, whenever we have minutes elapse that are talk time on our end, that's what we charge for. And then we also charge for the after call work, which is the amount of time it takes to type the notes as an agent and then submit that email. The after call work plus the talk time itself, those two pieces combine to be handle time, and we actually charge for handle time. And some phone systems capture handle time as a metric, including the one I recommend, 5.9, and some do not, and not many do. One of the main reasons that I'm pretty particular about phone systems that I recommend. So I hope, somewhere in there I answer your question properly. One thing I will say is that some systems, unfortunately, and it's very aggravating, it not only continues to sort of elapse time after you transfer the call, there's no way to cut it off. So when we were using TalkDesk, say we were taking a call, 2 minutes elapsed, and then we transfer the call, and then, we hang up, we're off the line, right? And say the call goes another 10 minutes, it would show up at 12 minutes on our end. And we didn't have the desire or intention to charge for that, so it got very complicated for us. So there are some phone systems that will force it, and you don't even have a choice. So you want to make sure if you're utilizing the model that I use, that you're not using a phone system that forces you to continue to elapse minutes and track time after the agent had transferred the call out of your system. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so I've got about, 9-10 more minutes. And I have one other question to answer, but if any of you guys have questions, I know there's 7 of you on here. Feel free to say hi if you haven't already. Again, I really appreciate you being on here. B, okay, when doing cold call, what are your thoughts on leaving a message with a quick pitch? So one of the beautiful things about, us having a tribe community now, and students that have launched their companies and have been marketing, is that, frankly, what worked for me may not work for you, and what works for others may not work for me. So, that's the preface to my answer. The answer is that some people do it, some people leave messages. I didn't and don't. I don't like to do that because the main reason is that I'm not able to get feedback on my pitch. And frankly, a lot of the types of people that ever call you back are people that are like local service businesses that didn't listen to a message. They just saw that there was a missed call. And they usually call back and they say, hey, were you looking for a quote, or were you looking for an estimate for a painting or whatever? And then they're doubly frustrated when they find out that you're a sales call. And so if you leave a message and someone actually listens to your message, it's a little bit irritating to go into your messages. Like, think about yourself. It's a little bit irritating now. Our lives have changed. A little bit irritating to listen to voicemails. And so if we listen to voicemails, we tend to tone out the sales pitches, right? And even if it's pretty decent. Now, if the pitch were decent enough for someone to listen to the voicemail and actually call you back and say, hey, you know what? That pitch was great. I'm interested. If that's actually the case, then it would have went a heck of a lot better if you actually had the chance to talk to them. And so I don't like to burn my pitch, my initial pitch, on someone where, again, I can't get that right now feedback. If I'm able to reach someone and I haven't picked them, I haven't left a message, and they say F you, then great. If I'm able to reach someone, and this is what happens the majority of the time, they're somewhere near the fence, then I can cater my ongoing conversation and responses based off of the feedback I'm getting. So I want the feedback. I want to be able to do a live pitch. And so because of that, I don't like to leave a voicemail. And then the final thing on my end, why I am team no voicemail, is because there's a little bit of intrigue and mystery for those that don't leave voicemail. Now, again, the service business people will call you back if you didn't leave a voicemail, and they might be upset. But some of them might not be. Whereas the only difference there is that you didn't put any extra effort into leaving a voicemail. Okay. And then the final thing is, if you don't leave a voicemail, you can sort of put them in the tally column of you didn't pick them yet, would treat them more like a cold prospect rather than someone you feel like you've made first contact with, which I don't really count voicemails as first contact. So I don't personally do it. But again, I believe there's one or two people that do it, and they're still doing it. So presumably it's not that bad. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, B. Bill asked, did you do a set price for clients by asking about their volume of calls, or did you charge more or less depending on volume at the end of the month? So we charge, excuse me, we charge initial plans, or we really sort of estimate it based off of their usage during trial. We try to estimate something for them if they have a good idea, like during the onboarding process, if they have a good idea of what the usage is. A lot of people don't, or they're just wrong. They'll say, oh, I get 50 calls a month, and it's 100 or it's 20. Most people are wrong. So what we typically tell people, unless they straight up know, is, well, what we'll do is, you can sign up for a plan. We usually put people on a starter plan, the lowest plan. And during that week-long trial, in our case, we get a sense of what your usage is, and then we extrapolate that for the rest of the month. And I'll be very specific here. The way that I did it, and this is a real gem, the way I did it was, we did a 7 calendar day trial, 5 business days. There are 22 business days in the month. So we took the 5 days, say they did 50 calls, and we do that time 0.4. So you, it looked like my video might be sort of paused here. Okay, hopefully the video is not paused. So you do the 50 call times 4.4, and you'll get the 220 call as opposed to 200 call, trying to extrapolate that just on a simple 4 weeks. So we do 22 business days instead of 20. And the point is that down to 220 call, we just do a real simple 2 minutes per call. We think it's going to be about 440 minutes. So I'll give them three options. It's either going to be a 400-minute plan, a 450-minute plan, or a 500-minute plan. And then whatever my pricing is based off of that, I'm presenting that to them, usually on a phone call if they're going over, and especially if it's a decent amount, because again, I want to get their feedback, or in an email if I feel like they don't care what it is I charge them, they're going to convert regardless. So that's what I do. 5 business days, and we let them know. Certainly don't do it for the whole month. Now, after, been a trial and they sign up for, say, 450-minute plan, let's say, it's been the first month and they actually use 550 minutes. What is overages? And so I'll let them know, hey, you use 550 minutes. If you want, I can adjust your plan going forward to 550 minutes. And as an incentive, I can give you a 50-minute discount on this first cycle because, I want to have you as a client long term. So I'd love to extend that courtesy to you or something like that. And then people use like that. And so, then we switch them at that point. And then just go from there. But frankly, businesses, as all of you understand, have ebbs and flows, highs and lows. They either expand or contract. So where there's a lot of businesses that might be consistent, a lot of other businesses that are all over the board. I have a student that hit me up earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, that like one of his clients, I think it was his very first client actually, gets like, I don't know, a small amount of calls during most of the year. Like, let's say, not a small amount, but let's say 500 calls a month, something like that. But when it goes into the sort of winter holiday season, it goes up to 300 to 400 calls a day. So it's such a tremendous difference that you can't really, treat that account like this thing was you set it and forget it what their plan is going to be. You have to anticipate those ebbs and flows. And yeah, that's that. Mark asked, does Five9 have a CRM? It has a what is it, like a light CRM called a light CRM. It stores the different, when you're taking a call, you enter the caller's information, the agent does. So, first name, last name, if there's an alternate phone number, if they have an email address, company name, if they want to enter that info, if they're able to get it and put it in. And so it will retain that information as well as any comments and notes that were associated with that caller, that contact, as well, of course, their interaction, their history of calls, their history of interaction. So in that sense, it has a CRM. It's not a full comprehensive CRM. I don't think there's any phone systems really that have that. That would more so be a CRM with a phone system on top as opposed to a phone system. And frankly, you don't need it. There's, as you might know, because Mark, I feel like you've been doing a lot of research. Some, like Dialpad, which I also recommend, they don't even have a light CRM. Most of these vendors do not have a light CRM, so it's an advantage that Five9 has it. Makes your life a lot easier, makes the agent's workflow a lot easier, and a lot more efficient as a result. Okay. Okay, so I hope this was helpful to all of you. I only have a few, like literally 3 more minutes because I got to hype on the tribe call. And I wanted to answer this last question, which was, I think it's really important. If I were to start over, what would I do differently? And so I think that's a very important question because, every now and then I do contemplated. I am now out of the lockout period since I sold the company. I'm no longer in the non-compete. I am free and clear to start my own virtual receptionist company whenever I want. And so what would I do differently? Um, the only thing I would do differently is I would make sure I do everything based off of what I know. So I wouldn't go with the crappy phone system. I would go with the sales methods and avenues that work for me. And also, one big thing I would do, instead of hiring all U.S. agents, and I know this might seem like I'm plugging my company, but I'm serious. I would use, in my case, I would seriously use Eastern European agents. It would have saved me, especially, I'm trying to think about this in terms of not having a lot of money, right, which I didn't in 2015. When I was first starting, budget was a thing, like it was a huge thing. And so the largest thing that you're dealing with is you're not spending a bunch of money on marketing is your payroll. And so I would have saved a tremendous amount of money on payroll, millions of dollars on payroll, if I had been utilizing Eastern European the entire time. And I think the quality would have been the same. I would have had to position myself slightly differently. I couldn't have said they're all US based, but I could say we're a US based company or something. I would have figured it out. So I would have done that differently, especially starting off. Maybe if it became like a big deal for the students that are using these agents, it doesn't seem to be a big deal at all. No one seems to care. But say theoretically it did become a big deal, then I would do a hybrid situation. I would have a combination of US based agents as well as overseas agents, again, to maintain the quality while keeping payroll costs significantly lower, which gives you more room to be able to have a better company earlier on. When you have more resources within the company to use, it's easier to do the things you really want to do. Like, it's just easier. So that I would have definitely done differently. Outside of that, I think we did a pretty good job. I mean, I can't sit here and say that there's all kinds of things I would have done differently because, starting that company changed my life. So, I think everybody can sort of, have 2020 hindsight and come up with stuff. But there's not too many things I would have done different. Oh, I definitely would have had a different partner. Tell you that. The partner I had was not a good partner. He was great in the first year, and not to get too much into it, but now, especially now, I would likely go at it alone. Actually, Harris, my staffing partner, I'll consider partnering with him. But for the most part, I think I will go it alone on this one. I know enough. I know how to do it. I don't need a partner. So that's what I would do. Okay, so I appreciate all of you, as always. At least throughout the rest of 2021, I will be doing this every single week because, Christmas and New Year's are not on Wednesday. So I'll be doing this every week. I'm going to be in Hawaii. I'm going to be out of town in 2 weeks, but I believe I land. I think I'll be back I'll be back in Chicago on Wednesday, I think around noon. So that'll give me plenty of time to be on that day. I'll see you guys every week for the rest of the year at least. And then 2022, one of my resolutions is to go absolutely crazy on this business. And, that's a blessing and a curse. On one end, there's going to be some more competition. On the other end, the more I put into this, the more times you're going to see me and have all kinds of content and gems coming out of my mouth. Another thing I know I'm going to do is I'm going to probably add a little bit of content, like, for instance, that training template. I will add that, and I'm just gonna make the course even better than it is. It's already, I think, very great. We already have, um, honestly, tremendous feedback. The best feedback I can think, one, is that people are like starting and launching and making money in the millions of dollars now combined. Um, that's one, and then two, people aren't asking for refunds. I think that's a huge, indicator that you're providing something of value. So, yeah, again, I appreciate you guys. B, you're in the tribe. If you want, I'll see you in 7 minutes on this tribe call. And for those of you that are thinking about it, you missed out on the Black Friday deal. So sorry about that. But this is still jam packed with value well beyond the 1997 price point. So do what you can and just get in. End this year strong. As far as starting a business, there's not going to be a much easier vehicle. There's certainly not going to be all that many vehicles that you're providing serious value to your prospects, and that the ceiling's so high. I mean, it could be a 9-figure business. There are people that are doing this in the 9 figures. So, it's a huge opportunity. Don't waste it. Don't look at me, talking to you every single week without maximizing your opportunity. So appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next week.